name is Willem Petse. I am a white South African. I am what you may know of as a Boer or Afrikaner. This is the first video that I'm making, but it definitely won't be the last. The world needs to know what's going on here in South Africa, but the mainstream media is not reporting on it. What saddens me the most is all these mainstream media sites reporting that what's happening here is a myth or some kind of conspiracy theory. I can assure you from my own family that it is not. My own great aunt and great uncle were tortured to death in their farm in the Eastern Cape in a racial attack like the ones that we hear about every single day. From my close personal friends and family, I can count 9 of these attacks and murders, and those are only my close personal friends and family. If I was talking about my acquaintances, the number would have probably been high in the double digits or even triple digits. Knowing all this, I am now dedicating my life to bringing this news to you and to the world out there so that people may know about it. I want to report on every single farm attack, terror attack on white people in South Africa from now on. What I want to achieve with this particular video is to show you from the available statistics to us that these attacks, these racial attacks, these farm murders are real and they are a big, big problem. What I also want to achieve is to help you understand what's going on here and how these murders are carried out and why they are so brutal and so bad. But I also want you to know there is still a bit, a glimmer of hope for us, and I want to show you what that is. Please take the time to watch this video. Thank you very much. So what does the statistics say? Firstly, I would like to point out that the South African government purposefully stopped releasing statistics on farm murders. The Open Society-backed Africa Check always like to use this to debunk all of the people who try to collect data on this. They say that the data that has been collected are not supported by the official government statistics. Well, there are no official government statistics. The best statistics I could find on farm murders come from the Transvaal Agricultural Union. The Transvaal Agricultural Union only use documented murders as their statistics, so their statistics are the most conservative. According to their statistics, there has been more than 1,300 farmers killed since the end of apartheid. I want to emphasize that this only includes farmers, not farmers' family, wives, children, or workers, or any guests in his house. Only the farmers. Once other people like that are included, the number becomes much higher. The second problem that we have with the statistics is that we do not know how many farmers there are in South Africa. The last official census done was done in 2007, so we can only accurately or kind of accurately calculate the number of murders per 100,000 in 2008. According to the 2007 census, there are 33,249 individual farmers in South Africa. According to the TAUSA, the Transvaal Agricultural Union of South Africa, in 2008 there were 55 farm murders. Again, I want to emphasize this is only the farmers, not their guests, family members or workers. Using those figures, we can calculate that in 2008, per 100,000 people, there were 165.4 thousand killings that year. This is quite significant, as the world's murder rate is 6.2 per 100,000, the South African murder rate is 34.1 per 100,000, the annual number of US soldiers killed in active duty is 71.5 per 100,000. The average in Honduras, which is the world's most dangerous country, is 90.4. White farmers in South Africa skyrockets those numbers on 165.4 killed per 100,000. This gives us a good reason to know that South Africa is currently on stage 8 on the 10 stages of genocide compiled by Gregory Stanton from Genocide Watch. Persecution, but we can also say that the stages 9 and 10 have already started, and this is something that scares me the most. Also, it isn't the numbers that makes these farm murders so horrible, it is the way in which they are done. To make you understand the seriousness of these racial attacks in South Africa, and to make you know how brutal they are, I'm going to start by talking about my own family, my own great uncle and great aunt. Sorry, I need to gather myself because this is very difficult for me to talk about. My great uncle David de Villiers and his wife Rachel, or as we know her as Raleigh, were attacked on their farm in 2014. They were both 86 years old at this stage. They were tortured for hours and hours and hours and hours by a black man named Talami Mkentani. It was very, very, very bad. My uncle, who was disabled and was 53 years old at that stage, was also tortured. They also cut his throat. He died later on. My great uncle and great aunt were dead on that night after they've been tortured to death. But this isn't even the worst. The worst part is, after they have been tortured to death, the attacker took their blood and wrote 666 white devil on the walls with their blood. And even worse, the fact that when he was in court, the attacker showed no remorse. The attacker just laughed about what he had done. He considered himself a hero in the eyes of his people in South Africa. This is the reason why I am dedicating my life to bringing this message out there. It's because I have this personal experience, and I know that every single white South African has this story to tell about their own good friends or their own family. And I know this message is not being told out there. Another story that I want to tell you about is the story about Willemientjie Potgieter, the 2-year-old who has been murdered on the same day that was her parents' anniversary. Her parents was also murdered on that day. Her father, Ati Potgieter, was tortured and stabbed almost 50 times. He was then tortured to death in this racial attack. Her mother, Wilna, was raped and tortured also to death, and then later shot in the neck. Then little Willemientjie Potgieter was taken by her hair, dragged through the blood of her father and her mother, and used to make her own little footprints in the blood before the attackers left. The reason why we use the farm attacks to highlight the question of racial attacks here in South Africa is because the statistics is the easiest to prove for farm murders. This does not mean that attacks does not happen in the city though. I'm going to talk about the Viana family, a family that was murdered in a racial attack in the city. Their son, Amaro Viana, was drowned in boiling water. The father of the Viana family, I just need to remember what his name is. Tony was his name. Tony was assaulted with golf clubs and tortured to death. The mother, Geraldine, was also tortured to death and raped. The attackers can be seen in court, showing no remorse for their attacks. They also see themselves as heroes. This is what happened when the politicians in power sing songs like "Kill the Boer, kill the farmer." This is what happens when the own president of a country tells his supporters to go out and kill white people. The numbers don't lie. I hope that you will now see how serious this problem here in South Africa is. But how do we help the Boer? This is a question I get so many times on social media. I want to start to get the following out of the way. Many friendly people to our cause call for their governments to give us refugee status. This is unfortunately not pragmatically possible. You can't just move away 4.5 million people to another country. I myself would also not leave my people here to get slaughtered while I selfishly just move away to a better country. So what is the solution? I would say the solution is comparable to the book of Esther in the Bible. The situation certainly is the same. The solution would also be the same. Just give us the chance to defend ourselves. But how do we do that? The commando system is a system that was in place in South Africa but has been disbanded in the early 2000s by then President Thabo Mbeki. The civil rights group AfriForum lobbied for the government many times to bring it back, but with no success. The commando system is essentially a system that was invented in the Boer republics of old. It is a system where civilians voluntarily take up arms and work together with the police and the army to protect rural and urban areas. This system has been placed in almost all of South Africa's history, but it has been disbanded with the turn of the millennium by then President Thabo Mbeki. It has been defunded as well, so there are no money to run the system anymore. But just giving it funding is not going to be enough. In the same time that it was being disbanded in the early 2000s, we also had the extreme gun control laws put in upon us with the new laws in the year 2000, which makes it a bureaucratic nightmare for anyone to get a firearm to defend himself. You have to apply for a license with the state, and this license gets rejected many times, and there are many unsuccessful attempts to get a license by people who had no criminal record behind them whatsoever. These licenses get rejected for no reason whatsoever. This needs to change. People need to be able to arm themselves to defend themselves from these attackers. Also, another thing that's now illegal in South Africa is to set up your own radio network. This is unfortunately essential for the commando system, and the government needs to be pressured into making this legal again. Another thing that's really bad in South Africa is the law. If someone trespasses on your land or is there to attack you and you kill him, you will be the guilty party of manslaughter if you used, and I quote, the law more force than the person who attacked you, and this can only be determined by what happened. So if you kill the person, the chance is more than 90% that you used more force than the attacker. These laws need to change. If someone is on your property, on your farm, inside your house or whatever, to attack you, he's there to kill you, and you must be allowed to defend yourself and shoot him. The government needs to be pressured to take away these laws that were written. Another thing that should happen, I would say, is all the race-based laws that bars white people from the economy, the academia, etc. should be done away with. These laws can be compared to affirmative action in the United States of America, but just a very much more extreme one, barring white people from the economy. And then lastly, the government needs to be pressured into stopping this expropriation of land without compensation motion. This just make people angry, black people at white people, when it doesn't happen fast enough according to them, which leads to more farm murders. Also, politicians who incite hatred should be prosecuted for it. Politicians like the previous president, Jacob Zuma, who said kill the Boer peoples, like Malema, who is probably the most popular single black politician in the country at this moment should stop saying things like kill the Boer or we are not calling for the slaughter of white people yet. These things need to stop, and we need to pressure the government into making them stop. I believe the international community can help to pressure this government into doing those things, and that is why I ask you to help spread this message so that people may know what is going on in South Africa. Thank you very much. Are you moved by what you have learned? Do you want to become part of the team that helps spread the message of South Africa out there? I have set up a few ways you can help me do that. You can contribute to my cause here on PayPal at this link. You can also support me on Patreon here at this link. If you have any other way that you want to help with the cause, you can send me a direct message on Twitter or on my Facebook page. Both are open to receive direct messages from the public. Thank you. Thank you so much for watching this video. My goal is to get the truth about South Africa out there to as many people as possible. I'm doing this by using all the social media networks available to me. You can follow me on Twitter. This is what my Twitter page looks like, as you can see here on this picture. My handle on Twitter is @Willempet, WILLEMPET. Also, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is Willem Petse, and please remember to click that bell icon so that you get notifications from my page. Also, you can follow me on Facebook. My handle is almost the same as my Twitter, only with the 1 in front of it, and here you can see how my Facebook page look. Also, please remember to share these stories that I report on with all your friends and family to make sure the message of South Africa gets out there.